Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Open Network User Group podcast. I'm Mark Tierney. I'm ONUG CTO, and today we're going to visit with one of the lead members from the ONUG Hyperautomation Working Group, among others, and we're going to discuss some new trends in traffic management or load balancing. Will it be worth it? Are you worth it? Of course you are, and you want to be happy. You deserve to be happy. You're not free salsa. You're guacamole. That's extra. You're extra. That's how we think about it. Before we go there, though, listen up. ONUG Spring 2023 will be a hybrid event. It's in my hometown, Dallas, Texas. It's going to be at Union Station, May 17th and 18th. You should be there. Come join the ONUG community of Global 2000 companies, enterprise architects, cloud providers, thought leaders, like our guest today, as we demonstrate the tenets of enterprise cloud and networking. You're going to go to onug.net to register for the event. You can use a promo code ONUG Podcast. We'll give you a truckload of money off. I think it's like 20% discount. So go do it today. Go do it right now. And join us at ONUG Spring, May 17th and 18th here in Dallas. So look forward to seeing you there. All right, joining me for today's podcast, he's a real leader on one of ONUG's working groups, the Hyperautomation Working Group, specifically Raj Nair. He's the CEO and co-founder at Avesha. And Raj recently wrote a blog titled Predictive Load Balancing for Cloud Cost Optimization, a case for intelligent load balancing. We're going to jump into that, but we're going to talk a little bit about history and traffic management. First, Raj, welcome to the ONUG podcast. How you doing, sir?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Very happy to be here.
Well, I know you're passionate about the topic, and I'll be frank with you. I don't know if passion's the right description, but I cut my teeth in network operations in the early 2000s, so probably 1999, 2000, on traffic management platforms at a large enterprise I used to work for, and it's important stuff for any medium to large size enterprise. Tell us, I'd love to hear your background. I'd love to hear a little bit about you and your background and why you're passionate about this topic. Take a minute and do that for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, actually, I'm also in the same time frame. I did something that was also remarkable for the industry at that time, which was not I, but my team, we created the first network load balancer that was HTTP aware and layer 7 aware. So this was a company called ArrowPoint. We had then IPO'd and got acquired by Cisco. And the idea there was, at that time, it was revolutionary because we were doing everything inside of a switch. So we actually paid attention to packets. We intercepted TCP, got the URL, and then did the load balancing based on actual intelligence, about where is this going, this packet, and send it to the right service. So you didn't have to, prior to that, you had to literally replicate sites on every server, and it was very limiting. And we unlocked that and allowed people to just have portions of a site replicated. Usually it was the index page because that's the one that used to get hit a lot. And then It's a much better way of doing load balancing. But it started my journey into this space, and from then we've made a lot of advancements, both through the cloud and Kubernetes and so on. That now we've reached a point where you can take it even further and come up with something that is a truly autonomous infrastructure, which is what it needs to be, so that your load can literally, you can send your workloads where it needs to be and have the traffic directed to those spots.
Yes. So I mean, and that's the deal on this. Where it needs to be has been a moving target over time based on changing expectations. I mean, I think from my perspective, early on, this is very much a resiliency, kind of solution, a truly load balancing kind of solution. But the qualitative aspects of traffic management have continued to rise up to the surface, right? And we look at where we send traffic and why we send traffic there has just gotten more and more intelligence to it. Is that fair? Is that a fair way of characterizing it?
Absolutely. I mean, there are lots of reasons why, you need to send traffic to certain places. For example, it just might be that the particular traffic you're sending, they need a certain kind of processing, which may be better at a particular location because maybe there are more GPUs there, or there are lots of reasons. There are maybe governance reasons, compliance reasons. So for all of these reasons, and then obviously, for the simple user experience, if something is overloaded, you'd rather not keep sending traffic there, and instead of returning a 500, you want to send them to a place where they can get service. So at the end of the day is, how would you keep up with demand and make all your users happy and not being faced with this thing saying, oh, server is too busy, come back later. That's not,
of course. Yeah. And that's my point. The different levels of customer experience, from just simple availability to having a wonderful experience, right? And what that means, right, can mean a lot of different things for different reasons. Certainly, efficiency, speed, whatever is one of those, but also being directed to an area that knows who you are and why you're there. At that particular moment in time is again, we've just improved the user experience, by introducing these technologies. So I love it, and I'm passionate about it too, Raj. I guess is my point. Let's take a minute and talk about. You're passionate about it to the point where you wrote a blog about it. So maybe that's a great place to start. So you wrote a blog. It's available on onug.net. It may be available other places, but feel free to go to onug.net and you go to our content tab, and you can do a quick search and find this article, Predictive Load Balancing for Cloud Cost Optimization, a case for intelligent load balancing. So Raj, why don't you, if you don't mind, just give us your high level abstract of what you're trying to accomplish here in this blog.
Yeah. So thanks. So I think the basic tenet of this is that there are two things at play now. So one is the fact that with Kubernetes and its availability everywhere in different locations, maybe through different cloud providers or whatever, you truly have now the opportunity to have a situation where you can have workloads deployed in any location that you really choose. So that is one very big enabler. The other interesting thing, which is what the predictive part comes from, is the growth of AI and its maturity, and the ability to then take these two and put it together means that you can do lots of things. You can do a lot of predictive stuff, like you can look at, let's say, traffic patterns. You can look at the behavior of applications. You can now, with these two predictive models, you can actually have the ability to create like a bot, which literally what it does is it tells you, okay, for this particular request, looking at what it's coming for and all its requirements, the best place to serve this is a particular location, which I know of because I have this analytics in front of me, and the bot is doing all this, of course, right? And it's sending it to the right place. And whether that is through a DNS or redirection, or maybe it is just simple 302, you can send it to the right location, and then it gets a better service. And this whole thing can be automated so that at the end of the day, the DevOps folks don't have to keep guessing and trying to come up with rules and doing everything manually, which is what is the current state. I mean, you can certainly improve that. And furthermore, when you get to a particular location, the scaling up and down of the resources, that can also be guided with predictive analytics. So the end result is that you can optimize. The beauty of AI that you can apply to this is you can optimize for a range of parameters, including cost, experience. You can give for the first time an SLA. You don't have an SLA for the cloud. You can actually create one. You can say, I'm going to give a certain percentage of failure rate, and that's all I will tolerate, and let the AI work to make this happen. So these are tools we have at our disposal. We should take advantage of it. And we have seen cost savings of up to 40%. So why not? Yeah, I cannot hear you, Mark. I think you're muted.
So that's a bold statement. Thanks for that. That's a bold statement. 40% cost savings. You threw it out there, so I've got to unpack that a little bit. Help the audience understand where those savings are going to be derived from. Okay.
See, what's happened is, like, if you look at, I'll just take an example of one control, which is there, the horizontal pod autoscaler. Let's take that. So the way that works is, at the moment, you have only one knob there, which is a CPU utilization. So you set that knob to whatever value, and then what most people do, because they have no other tools, so they don't want to be woken up in the middle of the night, so they set it pretty low. They set it at 30% or even lower. I know of cases where they set it to the single digits, actually. So the moment it goes above that, they scale up pods. And this leads to a lot of waste. And because they just don't know how to provision these, they don't know how to set it up. There's a circuit breaker. Nobody knows how to set that up. Just a guess. So the point is, you're doing all this because you don't have tools. When you have all these AI tools, use them. Use them to set these things. Have it set automatically. In fact, you don't even need to use those knobs. You can scale up and down with the AI directly, and you will not be woken up at night, because it is guaranteeing you that. It is making sure that you will have enough headroom, and it keeps track of it continuously. So this sort of control is not there, and this is why there's this gross wastage, rather than having this, let's say, just-in-time, provisioning and giving you the right amount.
Yeah, let me pick it. Let me pick at this a little bit, because whether it's through heuristics or policy or whatever it is, there's certainly different tolerances depending on your particular line of business, maybe even down to the microservice that you're solving for. Tell me a little bit about how today's AI solutions are doing that learning. And I think you have a specific term for it, but tell me a little bit about what that learning process and AI bias process is, how that function works and learns. Is that a fair question?
Yeah. I can give you an insight into how ours works, and there are other methods too, but this is just one of them.
Yep.
In fact, let me start with what many others are doing. A lot of people are looking at your usage patterns, and they tell you, looking at your usage patterns, that maybe you are using very large instance types, and you don't need to go spend that much money, and you can go with a smaller instance type or whatever. There's a ton of tools for that. That is called vertical pod autoscaling, and where they can actually literally tell you what you should be using to save money. And you can save a ton of money like that, no doubt about it. What we are doing is more at runtime, so to say, right? We are saying, when do you scale up and down? And that is another decision, not the size of the instance, but the number of pods. So which amounts to how many nodes ultimately, because that's what you're paying for. But the way this works is, again, you're looking at traffic and you come up with a predictor. Now, this is using ML. So it's a bunch of ML models that have worked together. It's a very good predictor. And about 7 models come in play there. And then there is another set of models that tell you about the behavior of the microservice. So it tells you that, hey, this microservice, for this much load, it needs so many pods. It's all looking at historical data, Mark, and that's how it's getting at. These two are then used together with this reinforcement learning engine, which essentially tells you, it does the action. So it says it learns how to do the action. Let me put it that way. So it's telling you that, okay, I have this knowledge of there's this much traffic going to be coming in. I need so much pods. And so that's what I'm going to go do. And it's learning to how to do that and then actually implementing that. It also, when I say it learns this, because it's actually gets some feedback, in terms of if it did well, if it met that SLA, if it's optimizing the cost. If not, it gets like a negative feedback, in which case it changes its path, its policy. So it's sort of a dynamic policy that is continuously tuning. And this is where, so let's say you ask me, what will I do without this stuff? Okay, let's say I didn't have you. So usually you leave it to some humans to do the performance tuning, but they don't do it all the time. They just do it once because it's a painful job, and then they leave it at that. But then traffic can change, the application can get updated. Now all of a sudden you lost all that value. The usefulness of a system of automation, I'm coming back to our working group's motto, right? All about why we need automation. Why? Because it's like having an eye continuously on this stuff, so that when things change, it can actually alert somebody, hey, something changed here. It's now not behaving like the way it used to. And or if the SLA was violated, it can actually tell somebody, look, you're not getting what you were supposed to get for this application. So
so it's not. I mean, we're not just talking about. This is an aspect that we talk about on the team a lot, as you know, and you just mentioned it. The observability component and its effect on orchestrating and automating, hyper automating, right, around infrastructure, right? That's the key. By the way, I appreciate the fact that you brought up policy. Because that's just one more component, right? In some regards, new and also changing component to why we make changes the way we do, because we're not just acting on infrastructure and availability, sustainability, but also organizations are wanting to act on policy. Maybe I want to redirect traffic a certain way based on in-country constraints, wherever that country might be. GDPR is the obvious example, right? Something like that, right? So, so that makes a lot of sense. So, we've talked about cost, and what are the other driving forces here for this beyond cost? It strikes me the obvious is just user experience.
Yeah, user experience. And then the whole keeping track of all the, from a operations standpoint, right, to reduce the burden on the DevOps folks to keep track of all these settings. I mean, you take an application out there, it's not unusual to see, tens of or even hundreds of microservices that go to make up a fairly big application. To be able to tune all of these microservices, because these settings are done at the microservice level. Imagine what a complicated job. And then to do all this and then make sure the overall SLA of the application is met is a lot of work. And this is why you need automation for this. It's just not there. And there's no reason for it to be that way.
It kind of begs the question a little bit. One of my frustrations in as a infrastructure exec type of role was you optimize around particular cost structure, availability structure, whatever it is, and you optimize around that. And because you've optimized, because you've done a good job doing that, right? Sometimes people get less money. You're saving money. You're not firing up as many compute instances or storage instances or network subnets or whatever it is that you're might need to do because you've done a good job. And as a result, suppliers sort of move your cheese a little bit, right? They figure out a new way to charge you because their cash flow has been reduced, right? Has this been an issue in the traffic management space? Like as we move from compute being charged, I'm thinking of cloud specifically, but being charged, but it's not just the cloud, right? I mean, it could be a VMware instance inside inside an enterprise, right? You go from being charged for a compute instance to to a container, to a microservice, serverless, whatever it is. Like, is that a moving target? And how is traffic management? And if so, has traffic management had to adjust for that?
Well, I think to some extent, yes. But then the way I look at it, Mark, is that, at the end of the day, you don't have to pay somebody extra money if they're not giving you any additional value. So, yes, maybe they move.
That's a beautiful thought. That's a beautiful thought, Raj.
Yeah. I mean, we should not. You should demand. You should tell the vendor, forget it. You're not adding any value, so go away.
Of cource.
Because
those conversations happen. My point is it doesn't mean that they don't change their structure. I mean that to certain, especially in infrastructure and platform as a service. I mean, it's their service. They can charge how they want to charge. It's their business, but it does cause havoc from time to time. That's what
it does. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, they're always going to try to find an optimum way of making money, and but then it is a two-way street. That's what I'm saying. There's got to be a benefit. Yeah. So
good. Well, so let's I like to give our guests especially if they're a supplier, give an opportunity to pitch their own space. Tell us a little bit about what Avesha is doing specifically in this space, and what makes you optimized around this new way of looking at traffic management tech.
Yeah. So thank you. I mean, so we have a couple of tools. We have this thing called Smart Scaler, which is very focused on the pod auto-scaling, like I just described. We have this tool. We have another tool. We call it Cube Slice. I think may have mentioned it before to you, but the idea there is that it allows you to have essentially you're no longer confined to one cloud or one cluster, and you can literally have clusters anywhere and on-prem, wherever. And it allows you to have the flexibility of having these workloads of an application, and it's specific to an application. So it is, and it's secure and so on. And you can have these at any location. But what it also, to bring the load balancing, which is actually the third tool, what we allow you to do is you can literally have a way of influencing DNS so that users can be redirected to a particular, or directed, I should say, to a particular location based on availability and their location and so on. So that now with these three components, you have this ability to have, when a user comes in, depending on the location, and let's say they are a gaming user, and it can be sent to that edge or location where they can be best served. And so the performance is good. At the same time, cost is also optimized. And it's a win-win for both. And so that is the advantage. And there is a leading edge provider who's actually using this, and we're very happy about that.
I love the notion of this. I love the multi-cloud deployment of this. I harken back. In fact, I made a comment at ONUG Fall last year and I asked a question. I think I asked it to Daniel Conroy of is it Raytheon about in the early days of cloud, Raj, there was a lot of talk about cost optimization through almost looking at the utility aspect of cloud and thinking we were going to consume it like a utility, and it could almost become an arbitrage style market where we'll move workloads to particular platforms based on cost cost at a particular moment in time. Hey, are we getting anywhere near that? Like, is
no, I don't think that's happening. But I mean, it's a good goal to reach. I think maybe for certain types of workloads, like function as a service or something, which is fully self-contained, you could probably do something like that, and it makes sense. But I don't see that happening that fast, because a lot of times, people are. It's very hard for them to move entire workload around. That's very difficult.
That's the deal.
Yeah, but
that's the deal. By the way, that notion is at the root of another ONUG working group, the automated cloud governance working group, which is all about how to help move the industry towards a more ubiquitous kind of solution, because everyone's got there's still too much proprietary nonsense in cloud consumption, right? And it just makes it hard to move workloads around. But you're making it easy. The cube slice solution almost implies that it would be easier. How does it make it easier?
Yeah,
I mean, administratively, it doesn't make it any easier, right? That would be a tough nut to crack.
We give you one pane to observe all of your deployments in all the clouds in one location, in one pane, I should say. And that's the idea of a cube slice. What we call it is it's a slice. It covers a lot of things. But at the same time, the way we make it easy for you is you can literally tell your Jenkins pipeline to go and deploy this workload or this microservice in this cloud or in this location, another one in different. And so you don't need to replicate your workloads everywhere. So you can have a split situation. You can just put, it sort of goes back to like when I was telling you about ArrowPoint and the websites, how we allow people not to have the entire site replicated. They can just replicate the index page. The similar thing, right? Most hit workloads, you can put them, in a distributed manner, and the others you can keep them in certain locations where you feel that maybe there is some cloud service that you're taking advantage of or whatever. So with that combination, you now have the ability to have a truly distributed workload situation, and the traffic can be directed to the right location to get the best service. So we have the ingredients of all of these available, and it's just, and we welcome people to try it out, because I think it is a different mindset, though, Mark. People have to start thinking a little differently.
It is, and to that point, and I'll put you on the spot. We don't ever like really prep for these sorts of things. I want it to be raw and honest, Raj. So, but do you have an interesting? Can you discuss any interesting use cases that you find interesting, especially in this, multi-cloud deployment? Anything that a particular customer use case? You don't have to name the customer, but
there is one
type of application.
One we're working on right now is a large bank. They're using MongoDB. They wanted 2 replicas because they wanted resiliency, and they don't want to connect them. So the thing with the cube slice is it also gives you an overlay network, which is a VPN, think of it like an SD-WAN, okay, for Kubernetes. It comes up on the fly. So the beauty of that is the latency is very low because you're just going right through these tunnels. You don't have to go through the north-south path, which adds a lot of latency. And you have to go fiddle around with firewalls and otherwise, make it very complicated to set up. Whereas with us, it's instantaneous. And then you can send your database sync and updates across. There may be some egress costs involved, but on the other hand, you don't have to replicate the whole thing. You can put portions of it, and anyway, for resiliency, you may be willing to pay the egress cost because you're getting something in return, which is resiliency. So, but overall, you will benefit from having a multi-cloud deployment, which is important for business reasons.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, I appreciate it. So, Raj, what's the best way to get a hold of your teams? How do you want customers to reach out, potential customers to reach out to learn more?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest is to reach out to go to our website, Avesha.io, and the multiple ways of contacting us, and we'll be more than happy to help you out with your journey. And if you want to try out this AI-based load balancing, we'll be very happy to help you.
That's perfect. Hey, thank you, Raj, for taking the time. I really appreciate it. To the audience, I say it all the time. We've got so many talented people, both enterprise consumers and suppliers. People like Raj that are actively involved in the ONUG working groups, putting together solutions, playbooks, documentation, blogs. These podcasts, all really designed and oriented towards helping the ONUG membership, helping enterprise consumers able to consume technology more efficiently and whatnot. So I encourage anyone to reach out, join the ONUG Collaborative. That's where the working groups operate. You can get to us at onug.net and look up from the Collaborative tab, and you'll get to hang out with cool people like Raj. You'll get catch a little hell from me along the way, which is good, but get to rub elbows with some really smart people. So go to onug.net for that. Also, again, as a reminder, the ONUG conference in the spring, May 17th and 18th at Dallas, Texas at Union Station. Come see me in person. Do it. It's my hometown. Come check us out. And on behalf of myself and Raj, thanks for joining us today. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.